I'm going to tell you one thing that you can start doing today, right now, actually, that is going to make one of the biggest impacts, not only with your mental health in general, but with your recovery from any type of abuse. My name is Dr. Felicia, and I'm a licensed psychologist. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about a psychological technique that can help you in so many ways. It's very valuable. My clients have really benefited from it, and I benefited from it personally, as I'm sure you will. So, what is this technique? This technique is, first of all, you need to stop doing something. And the stop is reacting emotionally. Now, I'm not saying emotions are bad. Emotions are great. Emotions tell us a lot. But a lot of times when people are going through the process of recovery, one of the biggest sticking points and challenges that they have is that they're still very emotionally reactive, right? So I want you to think about the difference between reacting and responding. Take a minute to think about that. What do you think that is? A reaction is something that is the best way to put it is a knee-jerk response. You don't think about what you're doing. So think about maybe touching like a hot stove or something. You move your hand back immediately. You don't think, oh, wow, this stove is hot. Maybe I should move my hand, right? You don't think that way. You just move your hand. It's a reflex. So many of the things that we do emotionally when we get stuck in the process of recovery from spiritual abuse or any type of abuse, or even when we're just having challenges with our mental health, is that we react, right? And we do a lot of things without even thinking. I don't want you to shame yourself for those things. As I've talked about before, a lot of the things that we do are ways that our bodies and our brains have kept us safe and helped us survive traumatic and difficult experiences. However, it is going to be on you to relearn those and to retrain your body to do things differently, to retrain your body and your mind. So we've talked about reaction, right? Then there's responding. And when you respond, you make a choice and you do so with intent and with meaning, right? So, what is a response? Maybe you see a box that shows up on your doorstep and you know that it is for Christmas, right? And so your response is, you know what? I'm going to look at this box. You know, you see the Christmas trees on there. Maybe it's from your granny or your grandpa or favorite aunt, uncle, or cousin or whatever. And so you know, okay, I'm not going to open this until Christmas Day. And so you go put it under your tree and you don't open it. That is response, right? You're taking in information and you are making a decision. Um, so that is basically the difference in a nutshell between reacting and responding. And so how does this translate to recovery from abuse? I'm going to talk about that. A lot of times when you are in abusive situations, you react. And you react because you have to keep yourself safe, right? Abuse is a very unfortunate thing that many of you have been through, and I'm not making light of it at all. Okay, I want you to understand that I can't go into all the nuances of that in this video or even on this channel. But when you are in an abusive situation, you react because you have to be safe, right? Think about a situation where you need to keep yourself safe. Maybe you are in a situation where you are in physical danger. You don't have the luxury of time to sit there and sift through options and say, well, am I going to do this? Am I going to do that? You have to react to keep yourself safe, not only in physical situations, but in emotional situations. You know, for a lot of people who have been through any type of psychological abuse, there is a lot of, I'm looking for the word to describe it. The best way I can describe it is an environment that is very emotionally charged. So you may hear a lot of yelling, right? People who are abusive don't typically like make requests in ways that are normative in ways that are peaceful and calm and that allow for dialogue. So they're often barking orders at people. When they get angry or when they get flustered or stressed out, instead of learning to self regulate, they put that on the people that they are abusing to regulate that for them. And that often means they're yelling, they may be throwing things, they may be just engaging in ways where you know that you're not safe. And it doesn't always have to involve yelling. There are people that will make veiled threats. The point is that you are in a situation that you know you're not safe. And so because you know you're not safe, you're going to react a certain way, right? A lot of times when people are in abusive situations, they have to react because it's their job to anticipate, not only to read the abuser's emotions, but to anticipate what's coming up next. And so that's why for a lot of people, there's a lot of hypervigilance because it's not just things are okay now, but are things going to be okay in 5 minutes, in 10 minutes, in an hour? And so a lot of that emotional energy is being spent on scanning the environment, scanning the abuser, making sure that you're safe. Not only in an abusive situation that may be going on in a household, but also in a spiritually abusive situation, right? We've heard talked about spiritually abusive leaders and seen them in action, and they can fly off the handle. They can make very capricious decisions that put you in a position where you don't feel safe. So you're always having to appraise threats, scan the environment. That is being reactive. So now that you are recovering, you want to go from reactive to response, right? How can you take in the information that you are being given and make the right decision? A lot of times people think that when you respond, that the emotion or whatever is triggering you is changed or different. And that's not the case at all. I'm going to go over something a little bit in this video, and probably in a part two, about guilt, right? So excuse me, a lot of abusive people, I would say probably 100% of them, use guilt as a way of controlling people, right? If you think about it, abusive people, if it were up to them, they'd have you do all the abusing of yourself instead of them having to do it. And it happens a lot, right? So, I'm trying to think of this. Okay, I read a book once in which there was a woman who was being held hostage by this man, and she escaped from the cage that she was in, but she had to like put out some kind of fire in the house. She figured out how to escape, but she also knew that she was being watched, and so she went back in the cage and locked herself in and threw out the key. And you might think, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Who would do that? But she had to as a means of survival because this, villain in this book was watching her. And so she didn't know where he was, but she knew that she was at risk if she tried to escape at that moment. So she was basically saying, hey, you can trust me to not run away or whatever. And that happens also in abusive situations, and also even in abusive spiritually abusive environments, any other kind of abusive environment. You are the one who will lock yourself back in that cage, and it is a survival mechanism. We do that oftentimes when we're reactive. Think about guilt. That's where I was going on a little rabbit trail. But people who are abusive love using guilt as a way to try and control you. So you may hear things, oh, you're so selfish. You don't think about anybody else. You don't care about me. Oh my gosh, how could you do that? Do you know what you're putting so and so through? And so over time, you learn that once you feel guilt, you got to react. And what does that reactivity when you feeling guilty look like? Whatever it does, it's going to benefit the abuser. So, what I want you to try and do now is think about things that you react to. Oftentimes, it's guilt. When we react, we do it for a few reasons. We don't want to feel guilty. Nobody likes feeling guilty. And you also want to appease the abuser, the abusive environment, or the spiritually abusive person. So, the next time you feel guilt, I want you to learn to sit with it. And this is not something that, can be taught over a video. This is something that I strongly recommend that you work with a licensed professional on, but learning to sit with difficult emotions, including guilt, and understanding, yeah, you know what, I can feel guilty And that's okay. It doesn't mean number one, you did anything wrong, or number two, you have to do anything about it. And that is probably a really, really challenging thing that people who are going through abuse have to learn, or they're recovering from abuse. So just because you feel guilty doesn't mean you did anything wrong. You have to do anything about it. Guilt is just there. And, for some people, the guilt sticks around for a while. I can't promise you that the guilt will go away, it'll get worse or get better, but through healing and through therapy, you learn that guilt is not dangerous, and it doesn't necessarily mean you did something wrong. And you don't have to get, the guilty feeling doesn't necessarily mean that you're unsafe. Now, it used to when you were in an abusive environment, but if you've left, or if you're in the process of leaving, you need to understand that guilt is not that. In fact, sometimes when you are feeling guilty, it could be telling you a lot of things. And I don't have time to go over that in this video, but I want you to learn, if you don't take away anything else from this video, is to respond instead of reacting, right? When you react, you are being um you're bypassing a lot of things, and you are basically in essence locking yourself back in that cage, which we don't want to do. So I'd love to hear from you in the comment section. What are some things that you feel help you learn the difference between responding and reacting? How does that show up for you, especially in your recovery from spiritual abuse? I'd love to hear from you on the comment section. And my website is skillsetcounseling.com. And you can go there if you'd like to book a consultation or an appointment. All right. I hope you have a wonderful day that is filled with peace. Bye bye.